Warahmatullahi Wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Ayu Ashari and my registration number is A1M219004. Okay, today I want to explain about methods of test validation. First, we have to know the definition of methods of test validation itself. Okay, test validation methods are at the heart of language testing research. Validity is theoretical notion that defines the scope and nature of validation work, whereas validation is the process of developing and evaluating evidence for a purpose, score, interpretation, and use. The way in which validity is conceptualized determine the scope and nature of validity investigation and hence the methods to gather evidence. Validation frameworks specify the process used to prioritize, integrate, and evaluate evidence collected using various methods. Therefore, this review will delineate the evolution of validity theory and validation frameworks and synthesize the methodologies for language test validation. Okay, the next is early developments. Early conceptualization of validity for a language test represented by Lado and Clark, Lado 1961 and Clark 1978, focus on a few limited types of validity such as content validity and predictive or concurrent validity, which support primarily score-based prediction rather than theoretical and empirical grounded explanation of score that provide the basis for prediction. Because validity was treated as consisting of different types instead of a unitary concept, test provides could conveniently select only one type as sufficient to support a particular test use. Further test taking process and strategies and test consequences were not examined. The next is major contribution. Empirical validation research flourished to address more aspects of validity including factors affecting test performance, generally ability of scores on performance assessment and ethical issues, and consequences of test use. Furthermore, application of sophisticated methodologies, both quantitative and qualitative, more matures. The next is work in progress. Corresponding to developments in the overall validation approach, a validation method have also been expanded to provide evidence in support of these inferential links. The commonly used ones for each inferential links as discussed below. Number one is domain description. It is linking test task to test performance evidence to supporting the domain. Description inference is primarily judgmental in nature, providing support of the test. Tasks are representative samples of the domain. Needs analysis to specify the domain and a logical analysis of the task content by content specialists where 83 are typically used to establish the content relevance and representativeness of test items in relation of the test domain. Corpus-based studies have recently emerged as the new technique to check the correspondence between the language used in the test stimulus material and a real language used in academic setting to establish currently relevance. Weber et al. 2002. Number two is evaluation linking test performance to scores. Evidence supporting the evaluation inference is based on the condition under which the test is administered and the care with which the scoring rubrics are developed and applied. Number one is in impact test condition and test performance. Test condition might impact the demonstrate of intended language skill. Research has been conducted to examine the impact of test condition on test performance to ensure that the test scores are not influenced by constraint irrelevant factors such as familiarity with computer in computer-based tasks. And Olgen 2001 examined the equivalence of scores between face-to-face and tab-mediated version of an oral test and supported his conclusion with discourse analysis of candidates' speech elicited under the two conditions. Number two is scoring rubrics. Other studies have employed quantitative methods to validate rating scales, because a rubric will definitely categorize fallacy consistent scoring. Some students have examined whether differences between scores category are clear multifaceted race measure. Number 3 is systematic race bias study. A related rather bias issue concerns the use of automatic engines for scoring constructed response items. Automatic scoring might introduce systematic errors if the scoring allocated 100% to independent construct by not including some highly relevant feature or using irrelevant feature. 3 is generalization linking observed scores to uniform score. A. Score reliability analysis. In addition to estimate of internet reliability and internet consistency of tests using the classical test theory to more unsophisticated methodological have score reliability students studies in language testing generalizability theories and multi-phased risk measurement. 4 is explanation, linking uniform score to interpretation. The explanation inference rests on the assumption that tasks, age, abilities, and process similar to those underlying performance on a real world. Language tests indicate by a domain theory and therefore can account for performance in domain. Both quantitative and qualitative judgmental and empirical have been developed together to gather evidence to support this assumption. A. Correlation or covariance structure analysis. Correlation or covariance structure analysis can be used to explore the empirical relationship among task items or between the task and other measure of family or similar or different construct and methods for measure them. B. Experimental studies. C. Group difference study. D. Self-reports data and process. A. Analysis of test language. F. Questionnaire and interview. G. Observation. H. Logical analysis of test text. 5 is explanation, linking uniform score to interpretation. The explanation inference requires empirical evidence that the test scores and highly with score and criterion measure. Criterion measure could be other test measure or non-test measure, such as real-world language production text. 6. Utilization, linking interpretation to uses. The utilization interest test of several assumptions, the scores and other information provided the user are useful and sufficient decision-making processes and apparent and non-negative consequences are incurred as a result of the assumption process. 7 is problem difficulties and feature direction. There are 3 problem difficulties and feature direction. Number 1 is driven and environment-based approach to test validation, articulate a clear, coherent, and complete interpreted attitude. B. Articulate elaborate interpreted arguments for typical test uses. Number 2 is validity research paradigms for different type of assessment. In the argument-based approach, the primary focus on the interpretation and use of an assessment rather than the local content of use and the problems of questions that are directly relevant to the particular content. 3. Pushing the boundaries of traditional language construct and validation issues. The constructs of language tests have become increasingly more complex and may go beyond what has traditionally been defined. I think enough from my material. I'm sorry for my mistake, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.